Alison here with another brief video on how you can be enhancing your debrief techniques. And today's video is on overcoming and moving through roadblocks to an effective EQ profile debrief. So it is not uncommon for clients to push back, to want to defend themselves, to come up with all kinds of really creative ways to disconnect from their experience of the EQ profile. And we call those roadblocks. So every roadblock that a client presents is a defense. And that's, in fact, that's what the EQ profile is. The EQ profile reflects how we defend, protect, and cope under stress. And revealing or being confronted with our EQ profile results can cause the EQ profile, the snapshot that's captured in the EQ profile, to become expressed. So that it's natural that our clients would feel defended by the confrontation of their results. So every roadblock that a client offers to their results, and we'll go over what they might be, is a means they have of protecting themselves, and it can be healthy. So we don't want to discredit or judge any of that. Every defense we have is designed to be healthy, and we want to work with our clients to relax and work through those, and that's what this video is about. Second, while roadblocks can seem derailing in the time and they can kind of frustrate us as coaches, they can worry us, they can make us wonder if the problem is us. They can cause our EQ profile to show up, right, in response to our client's EQ profile. That, so while these roadblocks can seem derailing in the moment, they can be generative to the client's overall awareness of themselves when we handle them really deftly. So the most important thing we can do when a client presents their defense is to meet them where they are. And which means that we accept them, that whatever they're putting out at us, that we allow and we hold space for, and that we accept and not judge, like whatever their reaction is. Like their reaction is just them doing them. And we want to hold space for that and allow that and not make it wrong, right? We want to acknowledge them really fully for the courage they're demonstrating, for even going through the process of the EQ profile, for how they're engaging with us, maybe even acknowledge them for them being willing to push back, right? Because that shows a degree of wanting to engage with us. So we want to always start by allowing, accepting, and acknowledging the client for who and where they are. And then we want to always be normalizing their experience to kind of say, hey, yeah, this is confronting. Like, hey, like this can be uncomfortable. And boy, it can be, we can tend to, see this about ourselves, and it can feel hard, and we can wonder, and that's all okay. Just hold the space that allows your clients to know that, like, whatever comes up for them, that's okay and it's normal. And then inviting them to be open to possibility. So we'll talk more about that in just a moment. So what are common roadblocks? I'll start with the roadblocks and then how to overcome them. So the roadblocks on the left is when a client will become hyper-focused on the instrument the ideals, the research, the validation. They'll ask questions like, how do you, like, where the ideals come from, and how do you know, and what's the research, and what's the validation of it, and what's the evidence? Like, they'll just like go there and just that is a coping mechanism. It's a defense mechanism. We don't need to tell them that. And we can just say, you know, hey, that's okay. I understand that you have a lot of questions about that. That's okay. That's what the technical report is for. And so what you can say is then, yes, those are all valid questions. I have a technical report that answers all those questions. Would you be willing, for the purpose of the next, 60, 90 minutes, to put those questions aside and, open up to the possibility for whatever this holds for you? Would that be okay? And most people are willing to step into that. So that is roadblock number one. When the client is hyper-focused on the instrument, the ideals, the research, you can offer the technical report at a later date and then bracket what they're saying. Bracketing is a way of saying, hey, can we put this on the shelf? Can we put this? Yes, what you're saying is valid. It's understandable. We'll definitely get to that. Is it okay if we put this over here and then open up into what might be available for you now? Roadblock number two is when you have, this is a different version of just someone who's just skeptical of the data or the instrument. This is really common with what we call trauma profiles, or profiles with high love, high joy, maybe high positivity, maybe high interdependent. That's also what we call oftentimes the skeptical profile. And what they're oftentimes skeptical about is how can there possibly be any benefit to my experiencing my distressing emotions? Because potentially they have spent a good chunk of their lifetime distancing themselves from their distress of their distressing emotions. And so they can show up to the debrief highly skeptical. So and that's okay. So again, we allow that, we embrace that, we normalize it, we make it okay, we don't judge it. We can, this is for you to know, we wouldn't say this necessarily to a client right off the bat, that it reflects past trauma. That's for you to know. And we can just invite them to suspend their judgment about, or skepticism about, the results, to see, would you be open to us discussing about the possible benefit that distressing emotions could have for you? And then you'd spend time going over the information and gift of the distressing emotions, and importantly, the cost in relationship of not accessing that information in the gifts. That's how you really can begin to make some headway to someone who has low access to their distressing emotions, is by being very clear about the information and the gift of each emotion and the cost in relationship of not accessing it. And you've got scads of information that shares with you how to do that, what that is and how to do that. Third roadblock is when the client is distracted, unprepared, unengaged, and rest assured, that's a defense. It may not seem to defense. You may think, no. You may defend your client's defense, which we coaches do, and say, no, my client's just tired, or like they're just overwhelmed, or whatever. And it's very common for that to be a defense around their own profile and the confrontation of them being confronted with themselves. So if your client is distracted, or they show up and they haven't read their report, or maybe they're just somehow not engaged, then frankly, I'd suggest that you reschedule for a time when they're rested and prepared and have read their results and have questions, because otherwise you're going to be kind of going through the motions and kind of feel probably like you're dragging them through it. And that's not fun for anybody. So that is roadblock number 3. So roadblock number 4 is that they show up and they're just not maybe giving you anything. They're not revealing, they're not vulnerable, they're not open, and that's okay. And maybe the thing to do there is to just like say, well, what do you want to get out of this? I mean, we don't have to do this. Why did you want to do it? Or what are you curious about? And, you know, you're part of the making of meaning of this. We can't make meaning of this without you contributing. So what do you want to get out of this? And that can be a way to kind of soften up and maybe invite some conversation. And also you can just invite them just to say like, hey, you know, this will be a richer experience the more vulnerable you are, and take care of yourself. You know how far you can go. You know how much is too far, and, you know, trust yourself. And then, and you're saying that, they begin to trust you, and that's really good. Okay, last roadblock here, being reactive or triggered. So this is not uncommon, right? So people that have a trigger that's expressive and is revealed in their profile can express that trigger when they see their results. And that it can happen, and that's really normal. And what we can do is just accept it, right? Acknowledge it. You know, ask, how are you feeling? What are you experiencing right now? What are the thoughts going through your mind? And so we're collecting information, you know, and just allow it and empathize with it and normalize it and say, yeah, this can be really confronting. And then, you know, ask permission to continue and say, we don't have to continue. Would you like to do this another day? You might invite them into some breathing exercises. You might ask them what would be supportive of them to allowing the information to unfold. And again, you might ask again what it is they're wanting to get from the experience, because they don't have to be doing that. And maybe offer what's possible, you know, what's possible if they go through it. And the possibility always is that they'll bring some awareness to something that they've been blind to, and blind to in a way that's enslaved them, in a way they don't even know that they're enslaved to. And once they can bring their awareness to these parts of their internal experience and how they're relating to themselves and others in the world, they can no longer be enslaved by it. They can have more choice over it. Right? So that is our video on moving through common EQ profile debrief roadblocks. I hope that was helpful for you. Take care. Bye now.